Story 1: The Cabin with No Road. I was 26 when I decided to take a solo backpacking trip through the Blue Ridge Mountains. Life in the city had worn me down. Endless notifications, deadlines, crowded trains. I wanted to hear nothing but the wind in the trees. Just me, nature, and my thoughts. By the third day, I was deep into the wilderness, far off any main trail. That evening, thick gray clouds began to roll in fast. I could smell the rain before it hit. I scrambled to find cover. That's when I saw it through the trees. A cabin. It wasn't on my map. There were no paths or roads leading to it, and it looked ancient. Half sunken into the forest floor, with moss growing over its roof. Its windows were clouded with grime, and the wooden door hung slightly open, swaying in the wind. Reluctantly, I stepped inside. It smelled of wet wood, mold, and something metallic. The floor creaked beneath me. There was a fireplace, cold and unused, but the ashes inside looked recent. A chair was pushed back like someone had just stood up. Dusty shelves lined the walls. I called out, but no one answered. It was getting dark. I decided to stay the night. As I unrolled my sleeping bag, I heard something. A soft creak from above. The cabin had a second floor. I hadn't even noticed the narrow staircase near the back. I stood still, holding my breath. Another sound, a single knock, muffled, from upstairs. I whispered, "Hello?" No reply. I grabbed my flashlight, climbed the stairs slowly. Each step groaned like it hadn't been touched in decades. At the top were 3 doors. 2 were shut. One stood ajar. I pushed it open. The room was empty, except for a broken bed and a dresser missing drawers. Dust coated everything, except for a single set of footprints. Fresh, deep, clear. They led to the far wall and stopped. I approached slowly. The air in the room felt heavier, colder. I reached out to touch the wall where the footprints ended, but before I could, the door behind me slammed shut. I spun around, heart pounding. I yanked the door open. No one was there. I ran down the stairs, grabbed my pack, and bolted out into the rain. I didn't stop until I was deep into the woods again, soaked to the bone, lungs burning. The next day, after the storm passed, I hiked back to where I'd marked the cabin on my GPS. There was nothing there. No cabin, no clearing. Just trees, thick and unbroken. Not even disturbed soil where the foundation would have been. I reported it to the park ranger station. They humored me, nodded, made a note. As I was leaving, one of the older rangers pulled me aside. "You're not the first," he said quietly. "We get reports like yours every few years. Same area, same story. Cabin that isn't there later." He paused. "But the ones who hear something beneath the cabin, they usually don't come back." I didn't ask what he meant, and I never hiked alone again. Story 2: The Red Lantern. It started with a dare. I was visiting a friend in a small logging town in northern Oregon, the kind of place that doesn't show up on tourist maps. We ended up at this dive bar full of flannel, smoke, and whispered stories. One of the old-timers, drunk off his ass, started talking about the Red Lantern Trail. He said if you hiked it alone, especially on a moonless night, you might see a red lantern glowing deep in the trees. And if you did, you had 2 choices: follow it or be followed. Everyone at the table went quiet when he said it. He looked right at me. "It comes for the ones who laugh," he said. I laughed. I'd been drinking, yeah, but I wasn't stupid. I didn't believe in ghost stories, but I did love a good scare. That night, just past 11, I grabbed my flashlight and drove to the edge of the woods. The trail sign was rotted, more moss than wood, but I found it. It was silent, not peaceful silent, empty silent, like everything had stopped breathing. About 30 minutes into the hike, the air changed. It got still, and the trees seemed closer together. Then I saw it, a dim red glow in the distance, swinging. Slowly, I froze. It was deeper off-trail, no footsteps, no sound. I should have turned around, I should have gone back, but I didn't. I stepped off the path and started toward the light. It always stayed just far enough away, never closer, never further. I tried to call out, but my voice sounded swallowed by the woods. Then I heard them, whispers. Faint, garbled, not English, not even human, maybe. They slithered through the branches like wind, but there was no breeze. The lantern stopped, hovered. I reached the spot, but there was nothing, no one. The light vanished. My flashlight flickered, then went out. Darkness. Total, suffocating darkness. I turned in circles, my breathing quickened. That's when I heard the footsteps, all around me, soft but fast. They weren't heavy, more like the tapping of bare feet. Something brushed past my arm. I screamed and ran, straight into low branches, tripping, cutting myself, stumbling blind through the undergrowth. My legs gave out near a dry creek bed, and I curled up, shaking, waiting for morning. I must have blacked out. When I woke up, it was dawn. My clothes were torn, and there were scratches up and down my arms and neck. I stumbled back to my car, still unsure if it had been real or a drunken nightmare. But when I checked my phone, I knew. There was a photo in my gallery I hadn't taken. It was blurred and crooked, but clear enough. A pale face, with hollow eyes and a wide, open mouth. Inches from the lens. Timestamp, 2:43 a.m. I asked my friend about the old man at the bar the next day. He blinked, confused. What old man? I never found the bar again, either, even with the address. Locals acted like it never existed. Now, sometimes, I hear tapping on my windows at night. Like something barefoot. I don't answer, and I don't hike anymore. Story 3. Static in the trees. I used to work as a field technician for a small telecom company. My job took me to isolated towers tucked deep in national forests, hills, and forgotten parts of the state. Most of them were automated and rarely needed human attention. But once in a while, something strange would come through. Anomalies we couldn't explain. Tower 17 was one of those anomalies. Located miles into dense forest, it had started emitting strange bursts of static on emergency frequencies. The report said it sounded like distorted speech, buried under layers of white noise. It was harmless, probably just interference, but I was sent to check it out. It took me most of the day to get there. Dirt roads turned to gravel, then nothing. I hiked the final mile with my toolkit, boots squishing through wet moss and leaves. The deeper I went, the more muffled the world felt. Birds fell silent. Even the wind seemed to avoid this part of the forest. I reached the tower by late afternoon. It stood like a rusted skeleton against the gray sky. Nothing seemed off at first. I ran diagnostics, no electrical issues. But when I turned on my receiver, the static hit me, and beneath it, a voice. Faint, choppy, but real. I recorded it, rewound, listened again. It said, "Don't leave." Goosebumps rose on my arms. I scanned the trees, suddenly aware of how alone I really was. But I saw no one. The forest stood still, holding its breath. Then I noticed something odd on the base of the tower. Letters, faint, scratched into the metal. I leaned closer. It was my name, full name, first and last, carved carefully, deeply, like it had been there for years. But that was impossible. No one knew I was here. I hadn't even filed my location report yet. I backed away, heart thudding. That's when I saw movement, a figure, about 50 feet into the trees, tall, thin, perfectly still. I stared. It didn't move. I shouted. No response. I raised my flashlight. Nothing there. I wanted to believe my eyes were playing tricks, but I felt watched. I started packing up, rushing. I didn't finish my checklist. When I got back to my truck, every tire was slashed, clean cuts, no tracks in the mud around the vehicle. My radio was dead. Cell service, gone. I had to hike out. The whole walk back, I felt it behind me. I didn't run. Somehow I knew it wanted me to run. I just walked. Steady, shaking, but forward. It was dark by the time I made it to a ranger station. They looked at me like I was crazy, but a few believed something had scared me half to death. 2 days later, they sent another tech. He reported no interference. The tower was clean, but he also said there were no carvings. Nothing on the metal, not even a scratch. I tried to play the recording I made. Gone. My phone had reset itself. Empty. No files, no logs. I quit the job the following week. Sometimes, when my radio's on at night, I hear it again. That faint voice through static. Only now, it says something different. It's behind you.